"Your father has gone crazy and won't let us in," shouted my son-in-law, standing in front of the door of my new villa with his friends and suitcases. They had come for a month's vacation without my permission, expecting a free paradise. I told them to leave, and 30 minutes later, the police arrived. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and write in the comments what time it is where you are now. The coastal highway curved like a promise. I gripped the steering wheel tighter as the Pacific opened up before me, endless and mine. 40 years of engineering calculations, weekend shifts, carefully invested bonuses, all of it had led to this moment. The villa waited 3 blocks ahead, perched above Carmel by the sea like a reward I'd finally earned. I parked in front of the property and just sat there, engine ticking as it cooled. $2.8 million. The number had terrified me when I'd made the offer, but my financial advisor had nodded approvingly. "You can afford this, Hubert. You've been too cautious your whole life." The ocean wind carried salt through my open window. 62 years old, and I was finally learning what freedom tasted like. The box labeled kitchen sat in my passenger seat. I'd packed it myself 3 days ago, right after calling Amanda with the news. Her response had been enthusiastic, maybe too much so. "That's incredible, Dad. Carmel, we should visit soon." I'd been pleased by her excitement, relieved she seemed happy for me. Stupid, in retrospect. I lifted the box and started up the walkway. The villa's cream-colored facade glowed in the late afternoon sun, windows reflecting gold. My keys jingled in my pocket, actual keys to actual property I actually owned. Not a rental, not temporary, mine. Then I saw the suitcases. They sprawled across my front porch like a hostile occupation. 3 large roller bags, 2 duffel bags, beach chairs still tagged with price stickers, a massive cooler with condensation dripping onto my new deck boards. I froze mid-step, the box suddenly heavy in my arms. The door opened from inside. Michael stood in my doorway, sunglasses pushed up into his sandy hair, wearing board shorts and a smile that didn't reach his eyes. Behind him, 2 men I vaguely recognized from Amanda's social media posts hovered awkwardly, holding more bags. "Hey, Hubert! Perfect timing!" Michael leaned against my doorframe like he owned it. "We were just figuring out who gets which bedroom. Amanda said you wouldn't mind us crashing here for the month. Amazing place, by the way." My mouth opened. Nothing came out. The box trembled in my grip. "What are you talking about?" The words finally formed. "I never agreed to this. You need to leave." Michael's smile widened, but his eyes went flat. "Come on, don't be like that. It's a huge place. 3 bedrooms, right? You won't even know we're here. Besides, Amanda already told everyone we'd be here." The 2 friends, Brandon and Kyle, I remembered now, shifted their weight, staring at the deck boards. One cleared his throat softly. They knew. They knew this wasn't right, but they'd come anyway. "This is my home." I set the box down carefully, afraid I'd drop it. "I did not invite you. You need to pack up and leave. Now." Michael's expression hardened. He stepped forward, filling the doorway, his 6-foot frame suddenly less casual and more threatening. "You're seriously doing this? After Amanda talked about how generous you are? Hold on, let me call her. She'll straighten this out." He pulled out his phone without waiting for my response. I could hear it ringing through the speaker. He'd turned the volume up deliberately. 3 rings. 4. "Michael?" Amanda's voice cut through the ocean wind. "What's wrong?" "Hey, babe. Yeah, we're here, but your dad's acting really weird. He's saying we can't stay." "What?" Her voice rose sharply. "Put him on." Michael extended the phone toward me, eyebrows raised in mock innocence. I didn't take it. He shrugged and tapped the speaker button instead, holding it between us like a weapon. "Dad, what is wrong with you?" Amanda's voice filled the space, sharp enough to cut. "Michael said you're acting crazy. They drove 6 hours to get there. You're really going to embarrass me like this? After everything I've done for you?" Everything she'd done for me. The phrase hit like a slap. I tried to remember what exactly she'd done. Called on birthdays sometimes. Invited me to dinners where Michael dominated conversations about his latest business venture, ventures that never quite materialized into actual jobs. Let me pay for those dinners. "Amanda, I never agreed to this. You never asked. This conversation is over." "Over?" Her voice went shrill. "You called the police on Michael, your own son-in-law. Wait, You're going to, aren't you? That's what this is? I hadn't mentioned police. The thought hadn't even formed yet. But now that she'd said it, the idea crystallized. If you do this, if you humiliate my husband like this, don't expect to be part of this family anymore. I mean it. Her breathing was rapid, angry. We were going to tell you something important this weekend, something that would have made you happy. But now, forget it. You just proved you don't deserve good news. Michael was watching me closely, calculating. Brandon had taken 2 steps backward. Kyle was staring at his shoes like they might offer escape. My jaw ached. I realized I'd been clenching it so hard my molars hurt. 40 years of careful planning, of building a life, of trying to be a good father after Janet died. Amanda had been 16 when cancer took her mother. I'd raised her alone, worked doubles to pay for her college, walked her down the aisle 5 years ago while Michael's parents sat in the front row, looking vaguely disappointed. 5 years. 5 years they'd lived in my Sacramento house, the one I'd kept as my primary residence while I worked my final year before retirement. 5 years of just until we get on our feet, and Michael's got something big coming through, and we'll start paying rent next month. The pattern had always been there. I just refused to see it. Goodbye, Amanda. I pressed the red button myself before Michael could react. He stared at the dead phone, then at me. Something dangerous flickered across his face. You just made a huge mistake, old man. I turned without answering and walked back to my car. My hands were steady as I opened the driver's door. Through the windshield, I could see Michael pacing on the porch, gesturing angrily to his friends. One of them shook his head, clearly ready to leave. Michael grabbed his arm, said something harsh. The friend pulled away. I reached for my phone and dialed 911. The dispatcher's voice was calm, professional. What is the nature of your emergency? I have trespassers on my property, 3 men who refuse to leave. My voice sounded strange to my own ears, flat, mechanical. Through the windshield, I watched Michael watching me. He'd stopped pacing. Our eyes met across 30 feet of distance, and something cold settled in my chest. Are you in immediate danger, sir? No, but they won't leave voluntarily. 15 minutes, she told me. I stayed in the car, engine off, hands resting on the steering wheel like I was still driving. Michael kept glancing at me, then at his friends, then back. He was performing now, gesturing broadly, shaking his head with exaggerated disbelief, playing the victim for an audience that hadn't arrived yet. Brandon and Kyle stood apart from him, talking quietly. One checked his phone. The other picked up a duffel bag, testing its weight, clearly calculating how fast they could pack. The patrol car rolled up silently. No lights or sirens. A single officer emerged, middle-aged, stocky with gray threading through his dark hair. He surveyed the scene with the careful neutrality of someone who'd broken up family disputes before. His nameplate read, Kowalski. Michael moved first, striding toward the officer with his hand extended and his face arranged in reasonable concern. I stepped out of my car more slowly, gathering the manila folder I'd brought with my closing documents. Detective Kowalski listened to Michael for perhaps 90 seconds, nodding occasionally, taking no notes. Then he turned to me. Mr. Coleman, can you show me proof of ownership of this property? Certainly. I handed him the folder. Here's the deed. I closed on this purchase 3 days ago. I never gave anyone permission to be here. He examined the papers carefully, comparing my driver's license to the name on the deed. His expression didn't change, but something in his posture relaxed slightly. Sir, he addressed Michael without looking up from the documents, do you have any written agreement, lease, or documentation showing you have permission to be on this property? Michael's confidence flickered. It's his daughter, my wife. This is a family property. You can't just kick family out. Actually, sir, without the owner's permission, you're trespassing. I'm going to have to ask you to gather your belongings and leave immediately. This is insane. Michael's voice rose. Brandon and Kyle were already moving, grabbing bags with practiced efficiency. You're taking his side? We drove all the way from Sacramento. We were invited. By whom? Kowalski's tone remained level. By Amanda, his daughter. Is Amanda on the deed? Silence. Then she has no authority to grant you access. The detective turned to me. Do you want to press charges? I thought about it. About paperwork and court dates, and Amanda's face in a courtroom. About Michael's parents, whom I'd met exactly twice, shaking their heads in some future family gathering I'd never attend. No, I just want them gone. Michael slammed his suitcase closed with enough force to make the latches crack. You just destroyed your own family, old man. Don't come crying when you're alone. The words should have hurt. Maybe they did, somewhere beneath the numbness. But I stood there watching as Brandon and Kyle loaded the last bags into a silver SUV, and all I felt was tired. Kowalski waited until the taillights disappeared down the coastal highway before handing back my documents. You okay, sir? Yes, thank you. He nodded once and drove away. I stood on the porch, my porch, as the sun dropped toward the ocean. The air tasted like salt and something sharper, like burnt bridges. I picked up the kitchen box I'd abandoned earlier and carried it inside. The villa was exactly as the photos had shown. Hardwood floors, vaulted ceilings, floor-to-ceiling windows framing the Pacific. Empty except for the faint smell of cleaning products and new paint. I set the box on the granite counter and didn't open it. Instead, I sat on the leather couch the previous owners had left behind and stared at nothing. My phone rang at midnight. Amanda's name glowed on the screen. I almost didn't answer, almost let it go to voicemail, let her fury spend itself against silence. But decades of conditioning made my thumb hit the green button. How could you do this to us? No greeting, no preamble, pure rage. You called the police on Michael, your own son-in-law. Do you have any idea what you've done? Amanda, he's humiliated. His friends think you're crazy. I think you're crazy. What kind of father does this? I listened to her breathe, harsh and rapid. Waited. We were going to tell you soon I might be pregnant, and you just proved you don't deserve to be a grandfather. You won't see these children. Ever. The lie was so obvious it almost made me laugh. We'd talked about grandchildren 6 months ago over dinner. She'd been adamant. Not for years. Maybe not at all. Michael wasn't ready. Her career came first. The words had relieved me then. I'd feared she felt pressured. Now I heard them for what they were. Ammunition saved for later deployment. Amanda, stop. Just stop. I know you're not pregnant, and I know what you're trying to do. It won't work anymore. What won't work? Caring about my family? Trying to have a relationship with my own father? You didn't want a relationship. You wanted a vacation house. The silence stretched. When she spoke again, her voice was different, colder, more calculated. Fine. You want to be alone? You want to lose your only daughter? You've got it. Don't call me. Don't text. We're done. Goodbye, Amanda. I ended the call before she could. The screen went dark. The ocean murmured through the open terrace door, rhythmic and indifferent. Sleep wouldn't come. I walked outside and stood at the railing, watching moonlight silver the waves below. The air was cold enough to make me shiver, but I stayed there, letting my mind work through numbers it had been avoiding. 5 years in my Sacramento house, never a utility bill paid. Property taxes I'd covered without question because Michael's startup needed the capital. Maintenance and repairs I'd handled because they were too busy. The new roof last year, the HVAC system the year before. Amanda's car payment I'd taken over temporarily 3 years ago. How much? 10,000? 20? More? And before that, the years she'd lived alone after college while finding herself. Rent assistance, grocery money, the trips to Europe I'd funded because she needed to experience life. The wedding, $40,000, half of it borrowed against my retirement fund. I thought I was being a good father, supportive, generous, the kind of parent who didn't attach strings or demand gratitude. Dawn broke pink and gold over the ocean. I watched it rise, feeling something fundamental shift inside my chest. Not anger, exactly, something colder, more focused. I made coffee in the unfamiliar kitchen, found my laptop in the car, brought it to the dining table, opened my financial software and started pulling records. 5 years of bank statements, credit card bills, property documents, every transaction I could find involving Amanda or Michael. The spreadsheet grew, column after column of dates, amounts, categories. My coffee went cold as I worked, but I didn't stop to reheat it. The numbers told a story I'd refused to read before, a careful, deliberate pattern of extraction masked as family love. By 8 in the morning, I had 5 years of data organized. By 9, I'd calculated the total. By 10, I was searching. Property rights, California. The legal websites were dense but clear. They had no claim. None. Living in my house didn't grant them tenancy rights. Not without rent, not without a lease, not without contribution to expenses. I searched Eviction Process California, then Family Law Attorney Sacramento. The results populated slowly. The first entry was a firm specializing in elder financial abuse. The term made me flinch, but I clicked anyway. The second was a general practice attorney with 5-star reviews. The third offered free consultations. My finger hovered over the first result, cursor blinking on the phone number. I called the attorney on Monday morning. 3 days had passed since the villa confrontation. 3 days I'd spent organizing documents at the dining table while the ocean murmured through open windows. Bank statements going back 5 years, property tax records, utility bills with my name on every one. The spreadsheet had grown to 17 pages. The drive back to Sacramento took 2 hours. The coastal highway disappeared in my rearview mirror, replaced by inland valleys and suburban sprawl. My briefcase sat on the passenger seat where the kitchen box had been days earlier. Different cargo, different purpose. Patricia Winter's office occupied the 3rd floor of a building near the Capitol. Her assistant offered coffee I didn't want. The waiting room had leather chairs and magazines about estate planning. I was 15 minutes early and used the time to review my notes one more time. Patricia emerged promptly at 10, mid-50s, gray suit, reading glasses on a chain. She shook my hand with the firm grip of someone who'd been doing this long enough to know when a client was serious. "Mr. Coleman, come in." Her office was lined with law books, the desk clear except for my file. I'd emailed scanned documents the previous Friday. She gestured to a chair and settled into her own, spreading papers across the mahogany surface. "I've reviewed your documents." She used a yellow highlighter to mark something. "Legally, your position is very strong. The property is titled in your name alone, and there's no written lease or rental agreement. That makes them guests, not tenants." "What are my options?" I leaned forward. "I want them out, but I want to do this properly. California requires 30 days written notice for occupants without a lease. You deliver it personally. They have 30 days to leave. If they refuse, we file for unlawful detainer in court. It's straightforward if they don't contest." She flipped to another page. "I noticed your current will leaves your entire estate to your daughter. Given this situation, you might want to reconsider that arrangement." The will. I'd signed it 8 years ago, back when Amanda had just married Michael, and everything seemed hopeful. "What if I set up a trust, put the assets somewhere they can't be fought over?" Patricia nodded slowly. "Smart. We can create a charitable trust. And Mr. Coleman, install cameras in the house before you serve that notice. Document everything." The paperwork took an hour. Her assistant printed the eviction notice on legal letterhead, official and cold. I signed forms for the trust. Beneficiary would be a veterans charity I'd supported since my engineering days on military contracts. Patricia explained costs, her retainer, potential court fees if they fought the eviction, trust administration expenses. I wrote the check without hesitation. "Call immediately if they threaten or damage property," she said, handing me her business card. Some people get desperate when boundaries appear for the first time. I returned to the Sacramento house that evening. My house, I needed to start thinking of it that way again. Amanda and Michael were in the living room, television volume high, takeout containers on the coffee table. They barely glanced up when I entered. "Amanda, Michael, we need to discuss your living situation here." I set my briefcase down. "This arrangement isn't working anymore." Michael stretched, arms above his head, not bothering to mute the television. "Living situation? What are you talking about? We live here. This is our home." "What? The villa thing got you all worked up?" I knew this was about that. Amanda sat forward, arms crossed. "You're punishing us because Michael wanted a vacation. This is insane. You've lived here for 5 years without paying rent, utilities, or property taxes." I kept my voice level. "I've covered everything. That needs to change." "That's what family does," Michael laughed, actually laughed. "You helped us out. Now suddenly you're keeping score? What's next? You want us to pay you back for birthday gifts?" I watched them. Really watched them. Amanda's face was flushed, but her eyes were calculating. Michael's smirk was practiced, rehearsed. They'd had this conversation before. Maybe not with me, but with someone. Parents, landlords, creditors. This was their routine. I opened my briefcase and removed the notice. The paper felt heavier than it should, like it carried the weight of everything I'd avoided acknowledging for years. This is a formal 30-day notice to vacate. You need to find somewhere else to live by the date on that document. The silence lasted 3 seconds. Then Amanda's face transformed. You're actually doing this? Kicking out your own daughter? What kind of father are you? I placed the notice on the coffee table between us. Official letterhead, legal terminology, 30 days. Michael grabbed it, skimmed the first paragraph, threw it back down. We'll fight this. You can't just throw us out. We have rights. The notice explains everything. I picked up my briefcase. I suggest you read it carefully. Amanda stood, following as I walked toward the hallway. You're making the biggest mistake of your life. When you're old and alone and need someone? I closed the bedroom door. Her voice continued on the other side, muffled but still audible. Threats mixed with pleading, mixed with fury. I sat on the edge of my bed, the bed I'd bought when Janet was still alive, the bed I'd slept in alone for 15 years, and listened to my daughter destroy the relationship we'd never actually had. The shouting eventually stopped. I heard their bedroom door slam. Then silence. I pulled out my phone and ordered security cameras for next-day delivery. The eviction notice lay in pieces on the coffee table, torn into careful strips, arranged almost artistically across the wood surface. A sticky note in Amanda's handwriting. This is ridiculous, and you know it. I photographed the destruction with my phone. 7:15 in the morning. They were already gone, work or escape. I didn't care which. I collected the pieces, placed them in a manila envelope, and wrote the date on the outside. First piece of evidence. The security cameras arrived that afternoon. 4 small units, wireless, motion activated. I installed them in the living room, kitchen, and hallway. Not bedrooms. Even angry, I understood privacy laws. But common areas were fair game in my own house. I tested each one, watched myself on the laptop screen, making sure the angles were right. Over the next 3 days, Amanda and Michael acted as if nothing had happened. Came home from work, watched television, left dishes in the sink. Friends came over on Thursday night. I heard them laughing in the living room until past midnight. I stayed in my bedroom, headphones on, documenting timestamps in a notebook. Patricia had been clear. Observe, record, don't engage. The phone calls started a week into the 30-day period. Hubert, I saw Amanda's post on Facebook. My cousin Janet sounded bewildered. She says you're evicting her? She's pregnant? What's going on with you two? Janet, there's more to the situation than what's online. I can't discuss it right now, but I'm handling it legally and appropriately. 3 more calls that day. An uncle I hadn't spoken to in 5 years. Amanda's godmother. Someone from my old church. I'd stopped attending after Janet died. All of them concerned, confused, some openly critical. I checked Facebook at Patricia's suggestion. Amanda's profile was public, and she'd been busy. Photos of herself looking exhausted in the home she grew up in. A lie, we'd moved to this house when she was 25. Captions about cruel fathers and family betrayal. Comments from friends I'd never met expressing sympathy, outrage on her behalf. One post mentioned pregnancy with careful vagueness. Worried about my baby with all this stress. Not a direct claim, but enough to let people draw conclusions. Don't respond to the posts, Patricia advised when I called her. Don't defend yourself publicly. In court, we'll present facts. Online, you'll just feed the drama, and it could be used against you. So I stayed silent while the court of public opinion convicted me. 2 weeks in, the house was freezing when I came home. April in Sacramento should have been mild, but inside felt like winter. I checked the thermostat, set to 70, but the air blowing through vents was cold. I went to the basement. The heating unit's control panel hung open, wires pulled loose. Not broken, disconnected, deliberately. Hey, I think I might have bumped something in the basement yesterday. Michael appeared at the top of the stairs, his concern theatrical. The heater's not working right. Want me to call someone to fix it? I'll handle it. I stared at him. Don't touch anything else down there. The HVAC technician quoted $850. I paid it, got a receipt, and that night reviewed the security footage. The cameras had captured everything. Michael going to the basement at 2 in the afternoon, when I'd been at the Carmel Villa organizing the last of my belongings. Michael opening the control panel. Michael pulling wires with deliberate force. Michael looking directly at the camera and smirking before walking away. He knew about the cameras. This wasn't an accident. It was a message. I can cost you money. I can damage your property. What are you going to do about it? I emailed the footage to Patricia with a timestamp and receipt. 21 days into the notice period, Amanda texted, "Can we talk? Just us? Coffee shop on J Street?" I met her there on Saturday morning. She arrived 10 minutes late, dressed down, hair in a messy ponytail, sat across from me and slid a photo across the table. Ultrasound image, black and white, grainy. "Dad, I need to tell you something important." Her voice was soft, vulnerable. "I'm pregnant. Just found out last week. And with all this stress, the eviction, I'm terrified I'm going to lose the baby." I picked up the photo. Standard ultrasound format. Could have been from a medical website for all I knew. "Which doctor did you see? When is your due date expected? Have you told Michael yet?" "It's early. I'm still figuring things out." She dabbed at her eyes with a tissue. Prepared prop. "The point is, you're putting your grandchild at risk with this vindictive behavior." I remembered the phone call at the villa, the same claim, the same emotional manipulation. She'd tried this exact tactic 3 weeks ago, and when it hadn't worked then, she'd apparently decided to try again with visual aids. "If you're genuinely pregnant, we can discuss how I might help. After you've moved out and we've established proper boundaries. The notice stands." The tears dried instantly. Amanda's face shifted from vulnerable to furious in the space of a heartbeat. "You're really going to choose pride over your own grandchild? Fine. When this baby never knows their grandfather, remember that you did this." She stood and left without taking the ultrasound photo. I examined it after she was gone. No name, no date, no identifying information. Stock image, I was almost certain. The deadline approached. Day 27, day 28, day 29. Amanda and Michael packed nothing. No apartment listings appeared on their computer screen. I could see it from the hallway when passing their open door. No moving boxes materialized. They weren't preparing to leave because they didn't believe they'd have to. I overheard Michael on the phone. "Nah, he's all talk. He'll fold. My father-in-law's been caving to Amanda her whole life. This is just him having a moment. We'll ride it out." Patricia called on day 29. "Hubert, if they're still in the house when the 30 days are up, we file for unlawful detainer the next morning. Make sure you're ready for that step." "I'm ready. If they won't leave voluntarily, we go to court." That night I sat in the living room while they watched television. The surreal normality of the scene. All three of us in the same space, pretending different realities. They were acting like nothing was happening. I was counting hours until the deadline. I went to bed early, set my alarm for 6, lay awake in the darkness, listening to the house settle, knowing that tomorrow everything changed. Tomorrow was day 30. Day 31 arrived with morning fog that burned off by 9. I woke at 6, dressed in a suit I'd worn to engineering conferences, and walked through the Sacramento house one final time. Amanda and Michael's belongings filled every room. Clothes draped over furniture, dishes stacked in the sink. Their car sat in the driveway like a declaration of permanence. They'd called my bluff, or thought they had. I drove to Patricia's office with my documentation folder. She met me in the lobby, briefcase already in hand. "The 30 days are up. They're still in the house. We file for unlawful detainer today and get a court date as soon as possible." "Let's do it." I followed her to the conference room. The paperwork was already prepared. Patricia had been drafting it for days, just waiting for this moment. Page after page of legal language that translated to simple fact. They had to leave. "Filing fee is $435. She slid the form across the table. "Court will schedule a hearing within 20 days. That's California law." I wrote the check, signed the documents. Patricia's assistant took everything to the courthouse while we reviewed evidence. The ignored notice, 30 days of compliance failure, security camera footage of Michael damaging the heater, every piece organized in manila folders with typed labels. "We'll need to serve them the lawsuit papers," Patricia explained. "I've hired a process server. He'll deliver documents at the house this afternoon." The process server called 3 hours later. Papers delivered to Amanda Foster at the residence. She accepted service but refused to sign acknowledgement. That's fine. Personal delivery is sufficient. 2 weeks I spent them at the Carmel Villa, trying not to think about what was coming. The court date arrived by mail. Early May hearing, 9 in the morning, Department 14. Amanda posted on social media the day after service. I didn't check myself. Patricia showed me screenshots during our pre-hearing call. Being sued by my own father. Can you believe this? He'd rather destroy his family than show compassion. Some people should never be parents. Comments piled up. Relatives I hadn't spoken to in years weighed in with sympathy and judgment, but some questioned her version now. My silence over the past weeks had spoken louder than I'd expected. Patricia received a call from Amanda's attorney, Russell Graves, a budget lawyer whose website advertised payment plans. He tried negotiating. Can we work out a payment plan for rent? Patricia's response was immediate and final. Mr. Graves, your clients have had 5 years to discuss rent. The answer is no. We'll see you at the hearing. The morning of court, I arrived early. Sacramento County Courthouse, Family Law Division, 4th floor. Patricia met me outside the courtroom doors and reviewed strategy one last time. Stay calm. Answer questions directly. Don't get emotional. She adjusted her glasses. This is straightforward. The law is on our side. Amanda and Michael arrived 10 minutes before the hearing with Russell Graves trailing behind. She wore a conservative dress and minimal makeup, hair pulled back, playing the role of wrong daughter. Michael had squeezed into an ill-fitting suit, his face already flushed with barely contained anger. We entered the courtroom. Judge Teresa Hartwell presided, late 50s. Sharp eyes behind modern frames, the bearing of someone who'd seen every family drama imaginable and remained unimpressed by all of them. Coleman versus Foster, unlawful detainer. The clerk called the case. Russell stood and launched into his defense. Your Honor, this is a family matter. My client believed she had her father's indefinite permission to reside in the family home. There was an implied agreement. Patricia rose smoothly. Your Honor, there was no agreement, implied or otherwise. The defendant is an adult who has lived rent-free for 5 years without contributing to property costs. The plaintiff provided it proper notice. The law is clear. She presented evidence methodically. Property deed, 5 years of utility bills in my name, 5 years of property tax payments, documentation of 0 financial contribution from Amanda or Michael, the 30-day notice with proof of delivery, photos showing their belongings still filling the house after the deadline. Our neighbor Stephanie Wells testified, nervous but factual. She described loud parties, arguments at 2 in the morning, yard work she'd never seen them do. Russell tried to cross-examine her, but she held firm on specifics. Dates, times, details. Judge Hartwell turned to Amanda. Ms. Foster, did you pay your father any rent during the 5 years you lived in his house? No, but he never asked for rent. He's my father. Families help each other. Did you pay the property taxes or utilities on the home? No, Your Honor, but... The judge cut her off, flipping through the evidence folder. Russell tried to argue family obligation. She shut that down immediately. This is a property rights case, counselor, not a family therapy session. She reviewed the documents for perhaps 3 minutes. Then she looked up. The court finds for the plaintiff. This is straightforward. The defendants will vacate the property within 15 days. If they fail to comply, the sheriff will enforce the court's order. The gavel came down. Final. Amanda's face went from shock to fury in the span of a heartbeat. She grabbed Russell's arm, whispering harshly. He shook his head. Whatever she was demanding, he couldn't deliver it. Outside the courtroom, Amanda came toward me. Patricia stepped between us immediately. You actually did this. Amanda's voice shook. You took me to court. You're not my father anymore. You're a stranger. I gave you every opportunity to handle this differently. You chose this path. Michael pulled her away, muttering something about appeals. Patricia and I walked toward the parking garage. Clean victory, she said. They can appeal, but it won't succeed. Next 2 weeks will be difficult, though. They'll resist until the end. I drove back toward Carmel, but my phone started buzzing before I reached the highway. Amanda's name appeared on the screen. Once, twice, 3 times. I didn't answer. The missed call count climbed. 5, 6, 7. as I merged onto the interstate and kept driving. Russell Graves filed the appeal 3 days after the hearing. Patricia called to tell me, "They're appealing. It won't stop the eviction." What does that mean for the timeline? Nothing. In unlawful detainer cases, appeals almost never grant a stay. The 15-day order stands. She paused. This is just noise. They're grasping at straws. The court clerk rejected their motion for stay of execution within 48 hours. The clock kept ticking. I drove back to Sacramento 8 days before the deadline. The house looked the same from outside, nothing suggesting change or preparation. Inside, I found Amanda and Michael watching television. A few boxes sat in the corner of the living room, but they were mostly empty, filled with newspapers and air. "You have 8 days left. Have you found a place to live?" Michael didn't look up from the screen. "We're handling it." "Why are you even here? Can't let us pack in peace." Amanda turned toward me, arms crossed. "You're really going to let the sheriff drag us out? That's who you want to be? That's the story you want?" I didn't answer, just walked through the house with my phone out, documenting. Their clothes still filled the closets, kitchen cabinets still packed with dishes, bathroom counters covered with their toiletries. Nothing had been boxed except those few props in the living room. 5 days later, I returned. Still minimal progress. But this time, Michael was waiting. He followed me room to room, talking loudly, aggressively. "You proud of yourself? Big man using courts against family?" I ignored him and continued documenting with my camera. He stepped closer, invading my space. "What are you doing? Taking pictures? Playing detective? You think you're so smart, don't you?" I kept walking, kept filming. He moved closer still, his breath hot on my neck. "Come on, take a swing. I know you want to. Show everyone what you really are." I stopped, turned to face him, spoke quietly. "Step back, Michael. I'm not doing this with you." "That's right. Walk away. That's all you know how to do. Walk away from your family." I headed for the door. He followed me outside, voice rising. I got in my car. He pounded on the trunk as I backed down the driveway, yelling something I couldn't hear through the closed windows. Later, reviewing the security footage, I could see his strategy clearly. Look at the camera. Get close. Try to provoke a reaction, create an incident he could use. I'd walked away. That was the right move. 3 days before the deadline, I received an email from Amanda. Subject line, "Please read." I almost deleted it, but curiosity won. The letter was long. Paragraphs about childhood memories, camping trips in Yosemite, teaching her to ride a bike, bedtime stories after Janet died. "Remember when I was 7 and fell off my bike? You ran down the street to help me. You said you'd always be there when I needed you. I need you now, Dad. Please don't do this." She described having nowhere to go, no money saved, blamed her choices on being young, stupid, not knowing better, promised to do better, to pay me back eventually. The final paragraph, "If you go through with this, I'll know you never really loved me." I read it twice, felt that old familiar pull, the instinct to protect, to fix, to rescue her from consequences. She was still my daughter. Part of me would always want to save her. But I remembered 5 years of free housing, the villa incident, court testimony I knew was lies, fake pregnancy, Michael's smirk. The pattern was undeniable. I replied, "You've had multiple chances to make different choices. The decision stands. I hope you find your way, but it won't be at my expense." Sent it. Closed the laptop. Felt something final click into place. The deadline arrived on a Wednesday. I met Patricia at the house at 8. Sheriff's deputies arrived at 9, 2 of them professional and experienced, clearly veterans of eviction enforcement. Amanda and Michael's belongings still filled most rooms. They'd packed maybe 30%, just enough to claim they'd tried. The deputies knocked and announced themselves. Amanda opened the door, makeup free, hair uncombed, wearing sweatpants. "We need more time. We're trying. Please." "Ma'am, you were given 15 days by court order. You need to leave now." Michael appeared behind her, anger tightening his jaw. One deputy explained the process. "Take what fits in their vehicle today. Remaining items go to storage at their expense for 18 days. After that, the storage facility can dispose of abandoned property." They moved frantically then, loading their car with clothes, electronics, important documents. 2 hours of trips back and forth while the deputies waited patiently. I stood near Patricia's car, watching but not helping. The trunk finally closed, packed so full the lid barely latched. Michael got in the driver's seat, started the engine. Amanda paused before opening her door. She turned and looked at me, not crying, not pleading, just pure, cold hatred in her eyes, the kind that burns away every other emotion until only this remains. She didn't say a word, just got in the car. The engine revved. They drove away. The deputies drove away, and Patricia turned to me. "Do you want me to stay while you inspect the house? I can help document anything serious." "Thank you, but I need to do this alone. I'll call if I need anything." Her car disappeared down the street. I stood in the driveway, keys in hand, owner of a house that felt less like victory and more like crime scene. Inside, the violation revealed itself slowly. Living room first, deep scratches across the hardwood floors, deliberate gouges in the drywall shaped like angry fists. Kitchen cabinets hung crooked, doors pulled half off their hinges. Broken dishes filled the sink, smashed plates and glasses they'd left for me to clean up. My bedroom was untouched. They'd respected that boundary at least. But the master bathroom told a different story. The mirror had a crack running diagonally across it. Towel racks torn from the wall, leaving ragged holes in the tile. I walked through methodically, photographing everything. In the garage, I noticed gaps on the tool pegboard. My grandfather's pocket watch was missing from the bedroom dresser, the one Janet had given me before she died. Gone, too, was the vintage camera we'd bought together on our 20th anniversary. Small thefts, petty revenge. Total damage maybe $3,000 or $4,000. Not worth pursuing legally, but enough to sting. Their final message, written in broken fixtures and stolen memories. I spent the afternoon making lists, taking measurements, calling contractors. By evening, I had an estimate and a timeline. 2 weeks for repairs. Then I could list it. The realtor came the next day. Jennifer Hayes, efficient and professional, walked through with practiced eye. "The market's strong right now. Once repairs are done, I think we can list at $685 and get offers quickly. This is a good neighborhood." I signed the listing agreement and drove back to Carmel. The 2-hour drive gave me space to process. Relief mixed with something heavier, sadness maybe, or just exhaustion from months of conflict. Several days later, Cousin Janet called. "Hubert, I heard Amanda and Michael are struggling. They're in some tiny apartment. Michael lost his job. Are you really not going to help?" "Janet, they're adults. They made their choices. I'm not responsible for fixing their problems anymore." "That's your daughter? How can you be so cold?" "It's not cold. It's necessary. You don't know the whole story." She hung up disapproving, but I felt no obligation to explain. Amanda and Michael had rented a one-bedroom apartment for $1,400 a month. Michael had lost his car sales job the week before the eviction, information I hadn't known during court. Amanda was working part-time at a salon. They had no savings buffer. 5 years of free housing had left them completely unprepared for reality. Over the next 2 weeks, Amanda tried reaching out repeatedly. First came a text. "Dad, can we talk? I'm sorry about the house." I didn't respond. Then a voicemail, her voice shaky. "I want to fix things." I deleted it without listening to the end. The third attempt was an email, longer, claiming she understood now what she'd done wrong. I read it carefully, recognizing familiar manipulation patterns dressed up as personal growth. The fourth attempt was in person. I was meeting with the contractor at the Sacramento house when she appeared on the porch, thinner than I'd ever seen her, worn clothes, dark circles under her eyes. "Please, just 5 minutes. I need to talk to you." "Amanda, we have nothing to discuss right now." I closed the door, heard her crying on the other side. She stayed there for several minutes before leaving. That evening, I blocked her number. Late May, I met Patricia for the final trust documentation. The conference room felt familiar now, safe territory where law provided structure to chaos. "This trust structure protects your assets completely," Patricia explained. "Upon your death, 80% goes directly to the Veterans Foundation, 20% to Amanda. No one can contest it or change it. And she can't come after the charity portion, even with lawyers? Not successfully? This is ironclad. Your wishes will be carried out exactly as specified." I'd chosen the beneficiary carefully. an organization supporting homeless veterans with housing and job training. Decades of engineering work on military projects had shown me their struggles. $3.2 million would build real solutions. Amanda would receive $800,000, enough to be comfortable if managed wisely, not enough to waste carelessly. The signing took 15 minutes. Patricia's assistant notarized each page. Documents slid into a formal folder, handshakes all around. You've done good work here, Hubert. You protected yourself and created something meaningful from a difficult situation. I walked out into late afternoon Sacramento sun, stopped on the sidewalk outside her building, took a deep breath, the first truly full breath I'd taken in months. For the first time since the villa incident, I felt lightness in my chest. Not happiness exactly. Something quieter. Peace. Freedom isn't free, but standing there in the sunshine, folder under my arm, future secured, I knew it was worth every painful step. Early June brought perfect weather to Carmel. I'd settled into a rhythm, coffee on the terrace each morning, book in hand, watching sailboats drift across the horizon. The Sacramento house had attracted multiple offers. I'd accepted one, closing scheduled for mid-July. No word from Amanda since I'd blocked her number. I was beginning to believe the conflict had finally ended. That morning, I decided to drive to Crossroads Carmel for a few household items. The shopping center was 10 minutes away, upscale and quiet. I parked and entered the home goods store, browsing kitchen supplies without urgency. Then I turned a corner and saw them. Amanda and Michael stood near the entrance, backs to me. My heart kicked hard against my ribs. Every instinct screamed to leave immediately, but something held me there, watching from behind a display of cookware. Amanda looked worse than at the house. Much worse. Rail-thin, hair pulled back carelessly, wearing clothes I recognized as years old. Michael checked his phone repeatedly, jaw tight, stress radiating from his posture. They were arguing in harsh whispers. Amanda turned and saw me. Her expression cycled through surprise, hope, fear in rapid succession. She approached quickly before I could move. "Dad, please wait. Don't run. We just want to talk. 5 minutes, that's all." Michael hung back, avoiding eye contact, clearly uncomfortable. "How did you find me?" My voice came out harder than I intended. "How did you know I'd be here?" "I borrowed a friend's phone and called your old contacts. Someone mentioned the villa. I know we shouldn't have come, but I needed to see you." I should have walked away, should have maintained the boundary, but something in her exhausted face stopped me. "Can we talk alone?" She glanced at Michael. "Without him? I need to say some things just to you." Michael nodded. "I'll wait in the car." Every cell in my body said this was manipulation. Another angle, another attempt. But I was curious despite myself. 10 minutes. There's a coffee shop nearby. That's all I'm offering." We walked in silence to a small cafe down the street. I paid for both coffees automatically, old habit, and we sat at a corner table away from other customers. Amanda began without preamble. "I've been awful to you, I can admit that now. I took everything you gave and demanded more. I never appreciated what you did for us." Different approach than before. No dramatic tears, no immediate requests, just exhausted honesty. "Michael can't find work. I'm working 2 jobs just to cover rent. Every day is stress about money, about bills, about whether we'll make it through the month." She wrapped her hands around the coffee cup. "I didn't understand what you provided until it was gone. I thought you owed us everything because you were my father. I was wrong." I watched her carefully, looking for the familiar manipulation patterns, saw exhaustion instead, possible sincerity, but I'd been fooled before. "What do you want from me, Amanda? Why drive all the way to Carmel?" "I don't want money." She met my eyes. "I know you won't give it, and honestly, I don't deserve it. I want my father back. I want a chance to show you I can change." "You've said you've changed before. After every incident, there's an apology. Then the pattern repeats." "I know." Her voice cracked. "But this is different. Living without your support, it showed me things I didn't see before. Please, just don't shut me out forever." I leaned back, studying her face, saw the little girl who'd learned to ride a bike in that driveway, the teenager who'd cried in my arms after her mother died, the adult who'd exploited every vulnerability I'd shown her. "Amanda, I hear what you're saying. Words are easy. Change is hard. I'm not closing the door forever, but trust is earned over time, not in one conversation. What does that mean? Show me through actions, not promises. Get your life stable on your own. Build something independent. In a year, maybe two, if you've demonstrated real change, we can talk about rebuilding. Tears started then, not manipulative sobbing, just quiet overflow. A year? You're saying I might not see you for an entire year? My heart softened slightly, but my resolve stayed firm. That's what it takes to rebuild trust after it's been destroyed. I didn't destroy it. You did. Repairing it is your responsibility. I stood, preparing to leave. I wish you well, Amanda. I genuinely hope you figure things out. But whether we have a relationship again is up to you and the choices you make. She remained seated, wiping her face with a napkin. Didn't follow me, didn't make a scene. Just sat there, staring at her coffee cup, shoulders slumped. I paused at the door and looked back. For a moment, I saw my little girl, the one who'd existed before manipulation became her primary language. Felt a wave of sadness for what we'd lost, but also clarity. I'd made the right choice. I drove back to the villa and sat on the terrace that evening, watching the sunset paint the sky, orange and purple. Thought about Amanda's tears, her exhaustion, her struggles. Felt sympathy, but not obligation. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. I opened the message. Thank you for listening. Amanda. I read it twice. Didn't respond. Set the phone face down on the table and returned my gaze to the ocean. The waves continued their endless rhythm, indifferent to human drama. Whatever happened next was Amanda's choice to make. Jennifer Hayes called mid-July with news about the Sacramento house. Mr. Coleman, I have an offer. $670,000. The buyers are pre-approved and want to close quickly. It's $15,000 under asking, but it's a strong offer. I stood on the terrace, watching sailboats drift across the horizon. $15,000 less than I'd hoped, but also $15,000 closer to being done with that chapter completely. Accept it. Let's move forward with the sale. I'm ready to close this chapter. Don't you want a counter-offer? We might get closer to your asking price. No. The price is fair, and I want it done. Start the paperwork. She paused, surprised at my decisiveness. All right, then. I'll notify the buyers. We'll aim for early August closing. After hanging up, I spent the afternoon reviewing financial accounts systematically. Amanda had been an authorized user on an old credit card, removed 6 months ago. Emergency contact on my bank account changed. Beneficiary on a life insurance policy from work switched to the charity. Every financial thread that had connected us was now severed. She couldn't access anything, couldn't manufacture emergencies, couldn't make claims. The spreadsheet grew as I documented each change. Most fathers help adult children occasionally. A car repair, medical bills, temporary housing. That door was closed now, not locked forever, but requiring her to prove it should be opened through sustained change over time. Strange mixture of feelings. Liberation, finality, sadness for what might have been. Late July brought another call from cousin Janet. Have you heard the news? Amanda and Michael are separating. Their marriage is falling apart. Are you satisfied now? Janet, their marriage problems existed long before I set boundaries. I'm not responsible for their relationship choices. She provided details anyway. Constant fighting. Michael blaming Amanda for losing the house. Amanda blaming Michael for losing his job. They hadn't filed for divorce yet, but lived separately. Michael on a friend's couch. Amanda kept the apartment. Janet hung up frustrated when I refused to take responsibility for their dysfunction. I felt no satisfaction at the news, just recognition that their alliance had been built on exploitation. When that resource disappeared, nothing solid remained underneath. Late August brought a formal email. Subject line, request for meeting regarding settlement discussion, from Russell Graves' law office. The letter was carefully worded. Amanda requested mediated conversation to discuss fair resolution to ongoing family matters. Legal language obscuring real intent. She wanted money. I called Patricia immediately. This is a fishing expedition, she said after reading it. She's hoping you'll offer something to avoid further conflict. What can she actually claim legally? Nothing, but she doesn't know you've restructured everything. That's her disadvantage. Set up the meeting. I'll make my position clear one final time. The meeting was scheduled for the last week of August. I drove from Carmel specifically for this, arriving at Patricia's office early. We reviewed strategy in her conference room. Be clear, be firm, offer nothing, she reminded me. Amanda arrived with Russell Graves. She'd dressed more carefully than at the coffee shop, attempting professionalism. Still thin, still stressed, but trying for composure. Michael wasn't present. Clearly the separation was real. Russell began with a prepared statement about family healing, suggested I provide financial assistance to help Amanda get on her feet, framed it as investment in family relationship, hinted at amounts, $50,000 to $100,000. Patricia cut him off. Let me be clear, Mr. Graves. Mr. Coleman has no legal obligation to provide financial support to an adult child. This meeting is a courtesy, nothing more. I took over, addressing Amanda directly. Amanda, I'll be clear because I want no misunderstanding. There will be no money, no settlement, no ongoing financial support. That door is permanently closed. Her face tightened. I've restructured my estate. The majority of my assets will go to charitable organizations. You'll receive a portion, but only after my death, and the amount is already determined. Nothing changes that. Russell tried a different angle. What about a short-term loan? Something to help her through this transition? No. No loans. No assistance. Amanda is an adult who needs to build her own financial stability without my support. I softened slightly, offering the only thing I could. If you want a relationship with me, a real relationship based on mutual respect, that possibility still exists. But it requires genuine, sustained change over time, not promises, actions. I'm done being used as a financial resource. If you want a father, I'm here. If you want a bank account, look elsewhere. Amanda's eyes filled with tears, not manipulative sobbing, just defeated overflow. So that's it? You're just done with me? After everything? I'm done with the version of you that sees me as an obligation and a resource. If you become someone different, we can talk. But that's entirely up to you and the choices you make from here. The meeting ended 30 minutes after it started. Russell gathered papers, recognizing defeat. Amanda sat motionless, staring at the table. I stood to leave. She spoke quietly without looking up. I really have lost you, haven't I? Like, actually lost you. I paused at the door. You lost who I was. Whether you find who I've become depends entirely on you and the choices you make from here. In the parking lot, Patricia congratulated me. You held firm in there. That couldn't have been easy, but you did the right thing. It was necessary. Not easy, not satisfying, just necessary. I drove back to Carmel that afternoon, windows down, Highway 1 stretching ahead, ocean visible on my left, endless blue meeting endless sky. This might be the last time I ever saw Amanda. That possibility hurt somewhere deep in my chest, but freedom hurt less than continued exploitation. I kept driving toward home. I woke before dawn on August 31st. The villa was quiet, peaceful, mine. Golden light was beginning to appear over the ocean, that particular quality of early morning when the world feels new. I made coffee and carried the mug to the terrace, same chair where I'd sat months ago after Amanda's phone call. Same view. Different man sitting here now. Sailboats already dotted the horizon. Morning air carried the scent of salt and eucalyptus. I thought back over the past 6 months, from villa confrontation to yesterday's meeting. Felt no regret, no guilt. Just quiet acceptance that I'd sacrificed a relationship to reclaim self-respect. Painful. Necessary. Done. Mid-morning, a FedEx truck arrived. Envelope from Patricia's office. I opened it standing in the living room. Final trust documents. Signed, notarized, filed with the court. Certificate confirming charitable trust establishment. Veterans Foundation paperwork showing my major donation structure. Updated will with new beneficiary designations. Everything legally complete. Unchangeable. Protected. I read through carefully. $3.2 million to Veterans Charity upon my death. $800,000 to Amanda. Enough to be meaningful if managed wisely, not enough to waste carelessly. Property, personal effects, remaining accounts clearly designated. No loopholes. No room for contests. No ambiguity. Strange peace in knowing that if I died tomorrow, My wishes would be honored exactly as intended. Afternoon arrived. I remembered Patricia had mentioned yesterday that Amanda might want follow-up conversation. 2 o'clock appointment time came and went. No call, no email, no appearance. Patricia texted, "Amanda didn't show for the follow-up meeting. I think that's your answer. She's done trying. Congratulations on holding firm. You've earned your peace." I responded simply, "Understood. Thank you for everything, Patricia. I couldn't have done this without your guidance." Her final text, "You did the hard work. I just provided the framework. Enjoy your life, Hubert. You've earned it." Late afternoon found me back on the terrace. My phone vibrated. Unknown number. She'd learned I'd blocked her original contact. The text read, "Maybe someday I'll understand what I did wrong. Maybe someday I'll be the person you needed me to be. But right now I can't. I'm sorry for everything. Goodbye, Dad." I read it 3 times. Analyzed the tone. Defeat, not manipulation. No request, no hook, no future opening. Just goodbye. My finger hovered over the keyboard. I could respond, could offer encouragement, could leave the door slightly more open, but anything I said might be interpreted as weakness, might restart the cycle. She needed to change for herself, not for me. I set the phone down without responding. Wave of sadness washed over me. This might be permanent. The daughter I'd raised, memories of her childhood, all leading to this ending. But also clarity. I'd done the right thing. Sometimes love means letting people face consequences. Sometimes boundaries are the most loving thing you can offer. Evening arrived and I remained on the terrace, processing everything. Sun began its descent toward the Pacific. Sky turning orange, pink, purple. Spectacular colors I'd seen dozens of times, but never tired of. I thought about the journey from March to now. The man who would have caved to the villa invasion, who absorbed years of exploitation without protest, who funded his adult daughter's entire life without question. That man was gone, replaced by someone who knew his worth, who protected what he'd built, who set boundaries even when it hurt. Victory didn't feel like triumph, felt like survival. I hadn't destroyed Amanda and Michael, just stopped enabling them. Their struggles were consequences of their choices, not my cruelty. Sacramento House now belonged to a nice young family. My money would help veterans who truly needed it. Amanda had enough inheritance to build something if she chose wisely, but that was her responsibility now. Mine was to myself. The sun touched the ocean horizon. Golden light flooded everything, making the villa glow amber. I stood and stretched, looking around the property. This was mine. Paid for with decades of work, protected by law, enjoyed in freedom. No one demanding access. No one feeling entitled. No one manipulating. Just me and the choices I made. Tomorrow, September began. New month, symbolic fresh start. Friends from my engineering days wanted to visit. I'd say yes. The Charity Foundation wanted to discuss my planned donation. I'd engage. Life stretched forward, full of possibility. No longer defined by being an ATM for ungrateful relatives. Defined by my own interests, values, choices. My phone stayed silent. Amanda's goodbye had been final. I accepted that. I picked up my coffee mug, long cold, and walked inside. Through the kitchen window, I could see the last rays of sunlight painting the ocean gold. I smiled slightly. First genuine smile in months. Turned off the kitchen light and headed toward the bedroom. Tomorrow would arrive, unburdened. Justice restored through boundaries, not destruction. Freedom earned through courage, not cruelty. Life, finally, entirely my own. If you like this story, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share your impressions of this story in the comments. To listen to the next story, click on the box on the left. Thank you for watching.